Okay, we are starting the session. First, I will give a brief introduction. So, we are a KaliIO community, and today our session is on automobile service ticketing system, which is our speaker will give us a live coding session on this as a React-based mini project. So, you can attach this project to your resume also. Okay. Then all welcome to our KaliIO community. So I will give a brief description about KaliIO community. We have started this community for the students, entrepreneurs, and the community enthusiasts, the people who are interested, right, to learn new things and based on React. So about KaliIO, our vision and the mission is simple to connect our students and upcoming entrepreneurs from various fields and various experts to explore new opportunities in the respective domain. Our objects are, means our objectives are providing the platform for the students and student entrepreneurs for networking with experts, exploring the new opportunities and upcoming opportunities. So in the today's session, you are going to learn the UI development with HTML, CSS, and Bootstrap. We are covering the complete React functional components and understanding the Axios, mastering the React hooks, right? And all things which is going to be as a live coding session, and you can interact with our speaker. And we have at the end of the session we have Q&A session, so you can clear your doubts with our speaker. And this is the brief introduction of our speaker. The speaker name is Sai. Yeah, he's expert in Angular and React and other frameworks. He's a senior lead engineer and having the 8 years of experience in React. Are you there?
Yeah, Prasad. So, hi guys. So,
Yeah. So now you,
yeah, I'll take the control, Prasad. I hope am I
yeah,
audible?
you can take over the session and you can start. Yeah, you are audible.
Cool. So,
Yeah.
hi guys. So, today we will be going to complete React concepts. Okay. As Prasad introduced me, so this is Hi Kumar, and I'm completely onto the front end tech stack, Angular, React, and a Vue along with the JavaScript. So I have overall of 8 years experience into front end technologies, and today's session we will cover a few things, okay, which are related to the React part, where we cover everything from end to end. So it is not like a minimal basic stuff. Okay, it will be from basic to advanced, where you can develop whole application. And this call could be something like 1.5 hour. So be patient and try to understand the things. Okay, and if you have any questions at any point of time, we have a Q&A question. Please make a note of it, and we can cover all that questions once we are done with our session. And in the middle, if you have any questions, you can interrupt. Okay, so let me go into the slide share screen share, and once you are able to see my window, let me know. Yeah, hope you are able to see my screen. Can someone respond to that?
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean, we
super.
can see his
Okay,
screen.
cool. That's nice. So this could be something like interactive session. Okay, be interactive with me because we are not completely offline. Okay, so we are online. So I need your inputs so that I can understand what are the questions you have and what are the things you need. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. So we will be implementing a small automobile service ticketing system which covers your authentication. Okay, and we will use some sort of mock APIs over here. I'm not creating any mock APIs here because I'm not creating an application of full stack development. I'm doing only React UI development using HTML, CSS, and a Bootstrap, and understanding complete React functional components. Okay, so we'll only target the functional components in this, and we will interact with the backend. So this covers most of your React things, and also it covers around the person who works on two, three projects or 3 years. He will have these concepts handy. So these concepts I'll try to cover with an application development. So what we'll cover in this video, it's all about React. Okay, so in this session, first thing we'll understand what is a React. Okay, so it was developed by Facebook. Okay, and this React application is something like a library, so it's not called as a framework. But at the time of implementation, on top of this React, we will introduce some set of libraries. So then it becomes more stronger, and then it becomes like a framework. It's not completely a framework, but it becomes like a framework. Okay, it acts like a framework. And we'll learn how to create React basic projects in this, and what are the commands we'll be using, and what are the prerequisites we have, and how to create routing in React, and what is routing. Who are very new for frameworks or the libraries, then we have to know something about routing. And also we need to be very familiar with single page application. So we'll talk all about that, and how we are doing this layouting, and how we can inject our bootstrap into React. And also we'll talk about the state management and the purpose of Redux, and how we can use React Redux in this. And also we talk about Redux Thunk for handling the asynchronous operations, where you will be interacting with the APIs. And also we'll talk about the validations. So there is a library called as use form. So that use form we'll be using for React form validations. And then we'll go with React hooks. We cover most of them. And also we'll cover something related to Axios, where this helps us to request something from the API, and you'll be getting a response to showcase on the UI. And then we will use this Redux Thunk API calls and whole UI stuff together, and we will be completing our complete application. So are we clear from till here?
Yes, I.
So, okay, let me try to go into our prerequisites. Okay, so first thing is, you need something before going further. The few things are like, you need to have a VS Code. Just go into VS Code download. Okay, and whatever the platform you have, Windows or Mac, whatever the system you are trying to use, just install this Visual Studio. It's free. And also just go into Node download and try to download your Node.js. So try to go with the latest version, and I'm using 18. I'm not installing anything now. So if you want to go with 20, you can go with 20 also. That's not a problem. And now I have this in my system, so I'm not going to install these two things. And now what we'll do is, we'll try to install our complete React project. So I have moved into KaliIO, that is my folder name. Okay, so here I want to create our application. It is very simple to create our React application. So whenever you have Node, for example, I'm just checking the Node version over here, and if you see, it is 20 version. So whatever the version you have till now, so I too have the latest version, so that's not a problem now. So we have a Node version, and if you see, it provides, whenever you download this Node.js, you will get an npm. NPM stands for Node Package Manager. We'll talk a little bit points about NPM as well. So let me check the version. So you will not explicitly install this. Whenever you install a particular Node version, that respective NPM version will be installed. So here the NPM version is 10.7.0, which is respective of 20 version. And let's try to understand what is this NPM. So if you go to any of the Google, so you can see NPM. There is a home page of NPM. So this is something like whatever the node applications, that means JavaScript things which you want to develop. You can create your own NPMs, and you can host them into these libraries, and the people can download it whenever they want. And now this can be private, this can be public. It depends on how you want to create. And if you want to go with the private, you need to take a licensing part. So most of them are public, and as I mentioned, React is also open source. So if you go with npm React, so React is also a type of library. Whatever you are hosting on this npm, that could be a library or a framework. In this case, React is called as a library. So what is the difference between this library and framework? Let's understand within 2 points. Okay, library will target only one usage, whereas framework will target many usages in single place. For example, we are talking about Axios for API integration, use form for another npm which is used for validation, and we have Redux Thunk for state management. All these are the individual libraries and we are making together. So once these libraries are set together with one particular application, then that can be called as a framework. So as of now, React is a library itself, but when this React integrated with many of the libraries, then it becomes a framework. So hope you are with me, right? Clear? Where you need to
Yes.
respond.
Yes,
Yeah,
I.
cool. So now, first we will try to install our React. So first thing is you can install React. If you don't want to install this library, not a problem, because already we have Node. So when you have Node, you can install something like npx. There is a command. This is a command which is given whenever you have the node in your system, then this command will create an application for you. So hyphen react hyphen app, and this is the command where you have to follow with your project name. So what could be the project name? I can give something like automobile tracking system, ATS, and hit enter. So now it takes some time, and whenever you are executing this, you need to have an internet because it downloads few things from our browser and from through the internet. So it is trying to download React, React DOM, React scripts. All these are again the libraries. If you just go with React DOM, so you will be finding something on this package. So React hyphen DOM, that is also a type of package. You can see this. This is also an npm package, and you can see how many downloads every week it is happening. So few folks have some doubts like, are we as AI, ML, these are coming into picture, this React or Angular or web frameworks will go? No, absolutely no, as of now. Okay, so as of now, AI or ML does not have that much capability to create complete web application. So web application, it has time, and no worries. You are, until unless you are following a trend, there will be no problem for React, Angular, or JavaScript related libraries or the frameworks. Okay, don't worry about it. So you have till you have a time where still we can use React and Angular or Vue.js, any of the JS frameworks, because we have to support plenty of websites already which are available in our browser. So let's come back. Now it took some time and it created some set of code. So what it created and how it created, we'll see. So first thing is I have created that inside KaliIO. So let me open that first. So let me go into our KaliIO and ATS and then open this. So I have opened whole set of thing. So what this command did for us, so it created a complete application. You can see here it created a complete application with a boilerplate code. So I don't want to go completely into each and every file, just I'll go what are needed for us. So whatever the packages we are installing, that will be inside our package JSON, and whatever the installed versions already we have, that will be present in this package log JSON, and whatever the installed packages we have, that will be in the node modules. So whenever you want to share your React application with someone, so no need to pass this node modules, because once if you pass this code, they can do npm install and automatically these node modules will be picked up from this package JSON. So package JSON is the responsible and is the place where you will have all your dependencies. So you have React DOM, React, and all this. So let me go with SRC. This is very important for us. Why? Because whatever we are trying to develop, Okay, we'll be doing only in this src folder, that is a source folder. And by default, source folders also have some set of content over here that is related to app.js, test.js, index.css, index.js. And also there is some logo, we have vital, this is for performance related stuff, and setup test.js. So let's talk about these files. So app.js is the root file. We'll understand why it is a root file. Okay, before going to that, I'll just run this. To run this, open your terminal, and then let me go with ZSH, and I don't want to use this. Okay, now I'm already inside the application folder. So once you create the project, you have to go inside the project, and inside that project, you can run the application by using npm run dev. So, okay, not dev, it is start. So if you don't remember the command, just go into package.json. You have something called as scripts. Inside the scripts, whatever you want to run, for example, in this case, I run npm run start. So I have used the start command. If you want to use build command, you can use npm run build. Whatever the scripts you have, you can use that key by followed by npm run. So npm run and start. So that's how you can run your React application. So let me go here. This is the default application. I'll tell you where this is coming from and how it is coming from. But this is the default application. And also, you need to understand something related to the single page application. So for example, if you use any legacy applications, okay, so whenever you move from one page to another page, this complete application will be loaded. Okay, that means it will continuously reloads. So that reload will happen whenever you are moving from one page to another page. In that cases, you are utilizing more resources in the sense internet. When you want to use Bootstrap with a CDN, then that CDN will be loading every time. So that is not always recommended. That's why nowadays people are coming with single page application. So this single page application capability is also provided by jQuery before, but compared to jQuery, this Angular application or the libraries are very fast. So that's why they are coming up with this type of applications. So React applications, Angular applications are completely called as single page application. So once we implement our routing strategy in our React, you will understand how this single page application will work. So let me go back. Now, how this application is running. So once you run this start, so it will run the scripts from the start and it immediately going to the index.js. So let me zoom a bit. Yeah. So someone pinged. Okay, no, cool. So now whenever we run that application, it will search for index.js, and once it starts searching for index.js, immediately it will execute this particular code. So this is all about importing the data or importing the modules from one page to another page. Here you are able to see document.getElementById. Where exactly this is present? This is a native JavaScript where you will be using to get your particular element. So I'm using get element by ID and the ID name is root. So where this exactly present? If you go into our public and if you go into the index.html, you can see a ID with root. So it is trying to get this index.html file, and then it is picking that particular ID as a parent node. That means all the content will be going in between these two. Whatever you are trying to write in React, that will be shown inside this. I'll show you that as well. Now, let me go into index.js. Now it fetched this root element and then whole your app component, whatever the component you are using over here, that is rendered in between these two. So that's how your app is getting loaded. Where this app is coming from? It is coming from your parent one. So you can see here there is something called as app. And what is that app? It is app.js. If you go to app.js within the same folder, so that's why they are using dot. If it is somewhat back, they will be using double dot. Now it is in the same folder, so they are using dot. And if I just jump onto this, you can see a app which is a normal JavaScript function. Let me close this as well. So this is a normal JavaScript function. So whenever you are trying to see this app.js, the same thing you are able to see on the UI. You can see edit src slash app.js. So that is what you are able to see over here. Okay, so that means the app is loaded onto your browser at localhost 3000. This is the port number which is running this application. So this is a live reload. So what is that live reload? Let's understand. So if I just go here, I'm removing all the details and I'll just use h1 as hi, this is my app. Let me save this, go here. I didn't refresh anything, it automatically refreshed and you got the application's data from that app.js. So whatever you are seeing here, it is coming from this app.js. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. So now let me, if you have any questions, please interrupt me at any point of time. Okay, and you can talk as well. So now we are done and understood how the application of React is working. And before this, you should know a bit of JavaScript as well. Okay, to understand this React, you need to know some functions, some variables, such things. But if you are really new for it, don't worry, we'll cover most of them. Now, this is a function which is returning a JSX. So normally in JavaScript, we will return some logic. But here in React, we will return a logic which includes our whole HTML content. That means it's a combination of JavaScript and HTML content. That's why it is called as JSX. So let me write here as a comment, JSX. JavaScript extension. So we are trying to use a JavaScript extension logic. That means you can write your HTML logic as well as JavaScript logic in between this return statement. And whatever the function you are exporting default, that has to be imported wherever you want, and that acts like a component. So this is a component. What is a component? Component is nothing but we have HTML. Actually, don't worry about React. React is nothing but a HTML content. Okay, so in general, whenever you want to use HTML, how we will be using that? So if you go to HTML W3 schools, okay, so you have something called as HTML head, title, body, h1. These all are given by HTML. But what we are trying to do in React, we are creating our own elements. These are called as elements in HTML. So we are creating our own HTMLs. So that's what we are doing in React. So you will be creating your own functions and that acts as a HTML element. Now you can ask how that is possible and how you can prove that. It is very simple. Already we saw that in index.js, we are using a app. And if you see, it looks same like HTML tag. So that means whatever the function we are using here, it is same like a HTML content. And that is nothing but a component. So a component is something like it acts like a HTML element. And that is a customized HTML element which we are creating by ourselves. So that's how you will be creating your own component and you will be injecting that component. So this process is called injecting a component. That means we are creating the component at some place and we are injecting at some place. So this is a basic understanding which you need in React, that is injecting one component to other component. Now, so if I want to, this is created by React. If I want to create a component, how I can create and how I can inject. So let me show you that with a small example. So what we'll do is I'll create a folder called as components. So inside this, you can create whatever the folders you want, whatever the files you want, but follow some standards. So now we are creating some set of components. So what I'll do is the component which we will be using in our application, let me create that. So let me go with a new folder again. And what I want to do is I want to create a pre-header component. And let me go with a new file called as pre-header.js. We will be extending that particular file with JS or JSX. You can use anything. For now, I'll use JSX. Okay, and this is the file which we are creating. But if you try to see this, we are creating this file with a capital letter. So whenever you are creating a React component, it is always recommended to use a capital letter. And we have to create the function and we have to export it. So let me write that function, and the function name is pre-header. You can give whatever the name you want, not bothered about it. So pre-header and something like this. Return, I want to return some JSX because it's a React component. So let me use something like h1 as pre-heading and save this. Now to use this, I'm exporting this default value with pre-header and save this. Now what we want to do, we want to import it. So wherever you want to inject it, you can import it. So first thing I want to use here, and it is a JSX, so I can use it as a HTML element. So let me use this as a HTML element like this, and I don't have any content to pass, so I can self close this. So if you see HTML BR tags, break tags, or input tags, you will be seeing the self closing. This is called as a self closing tag. That means if you don't want to pass anything, then you can create a self closing tag. I don't want to pass anything to this, so that's why I have created it as a self closing tag. So now you can see whatever we wrote inside this, that can be visible inside this. So let me go back. I didn't refresh anything. It created a new component and it injected the pre-heading component. If you inspect this, let's see how it is. You can see this is a div id root. That means it is completely from index.html, and inside that root whole application is present. That is app component, and inside this app component we have one HTML and pre-heading is a second component. But if you observe this, that is only till how we are writing here. But once it renders on the DOM, this is called as a DOM. So once it renders on the DOM, you will not be able to see which component is that. So you are not able to see any of the component names like pre-header, anything. It will just get the return statements and it will replace this particular component. So that is called as an injection process. So hope you are understanding what is this injection process, inserting one component into another component. Hope you are good.
Yes, I we are following you.
Yeah, thank you. So now we have a pre-header. So this is how the injection process will work. Now, if you see, the URL is common for everything. So how to create this URL strategy? That means if I want to have multiple pages, how can I do that? So what I'll do is I'll create that multiple pages now. And before doing that, I want to explain you some other things. Like, let me go with some folder structure. Okay, like I want to create layouts. Okay, why these layouts are important? Okay, so let me tell you. The thing is, if you are using a Facebook or Gmail or any other things, once, let me consider Amazon. So if you see Amazon, before login, you will be seeing a white page with the login content, and once you log in, you will be seeing a header with the functionality, complete logic. Okay, so whatever the products you are seeing, you will be seeing all that products, and the header will be common. That means if you go to multiple pages also, the header will be common. So same strategy we will be using here. We will be creating a login page, and whatever the screens we have, we will host them or we will place them inside a particular layout, because before login the UI will be different and after login the UI will be different. Let me show you that as well. So for that sake, I'm creating a file. Let me go with a file called as pre-login. That means before login. So JSX. Okay. Now, every time writing a function, exporting a default value, it's very big deal for us, right? So for that sake, what we can do is just go into this extensions, that is Visual Studio extension, and here we have something called as snippets. You can see this is a snippets. It supports React, Redux, React Native snippets. So this snippets provides us a shortcut form. Just you have to install this, and if it requires, you have to restart your Visual Studio. So now what we'll do is we'll use some set of snippets, RFCE. It will create Just type this and give a tab. It will create a component for you, and it will be creating with the same name, pre-login. So this is my component. Now my component is ready. Don't practice in the starting, but once you are habituated to create the functions and exporting this way, you can do this snippets. Okay, just to process this teaching fast, I made this snippet. I'm using this snippet. So I'm using this pre-login as my before logging in. So the person or the screens, whatever you want to render, I want to render inside this pre-login. In the same way, I'll just create one more file called as post login.jsx, and the same way rfce tab. So it will create the post login. So we have post login and pre-login layouts, and then we'll come up with one more thing called as pages. Pages are something like a complete page, a login page, a registration page, a service request page, like that. So what I'll do is I'll go with first one more file called as login, and inside this login I want to create a new file called as login.jsx, and I'm not using any registration part. Let me create one more folder called as service request. So this service request will be done by the customers. So let me create a new file called as service request.jsx, and this is also JSX, this is also JSX. Let me create rfce tab login page and rfce service request page. So we are creating different types of pages, and we have created one is login and one is service request. And also what I'll do is I'll use the same pages but pre-login folder, and inside this folder I'll just move this just for understanding in a proper way. So we are creating our folders in a way how they want to be rendered. So whatever you want to go with the pre-login screens, for example, in the future you got forget password, then you can put that inside this pre-login. And I'll create one more folder called as post login. So whatever the screens we want post login, we'll be creating inside this. So let me create a new folder called as dashboard, and inside this let me create a file called as dashboard.jsx and rfce. That's it. So whatever the components we want to reuse, we'll be creating here, and whatever the pages we want, we'll be creating here. Pages means each page indicates one particular route. So that way I have configured this particular folders. Do you have any questions in this folder structure? It's up to you how you want to create your folder structure, but I'm giving a proper standards which gives you better understanding, and also it gives a very good impression if you are trying to follow the standards. Is that clear? Or any confusion?
No.
Hello?
No, sir, very good.
Yeah, cool. So now we are done with the creation of files. So how these files are interacted? So first thing is I need some set of routings. So for example, if I want to go with login, if I go into this login, I want only login screen. And if I want to go with service request, something like this, and then I want to see only service request. But as of now, we are seeing the same URL. I mean, for different URLs, we are seeing the same UI. I don't want to do that. I want to have a capability to route from one page to another page. That means I want to move from one page to another page within this application. Like if you are using a Facebook, you will be going a home, you will be using the notifications, you will be using the marketplace. All those are different routes. If you go and click something, it will change. For example, let me go into the Bootstrap. Here you can see when I click on home, your URL has changed. When I click on examples, your URL has changed, and when you click on icons, it went to other tab. Themes, it went to other tab. Blog, it went to other tab. Like this, you have different types of links. For example, let me click on these examples again. You can see there is a refresh happening here. Okay, So this is not a single page application. Okay, whenever you are using a single page application, that will not refresh like this. It will just slide and move from one page to another page. So that is how your single page application will work. In the same way, React does not provide any routing mechanism for you. So that is not provided directly by React. Okay, so because React is a library, as I mentioned before. Okay, is that clear? Now we are trying to add some flexibility where we have to give a powerful tool for this React for achieving our routing part. So what I can give, it is very simple. I can go with installation of React router. So there is something called as React router. Let me open this and let me go with one more terminal and let me install this. So how to install one more library? It is very simple. Npm install I for install, or if you want to type, you can type complete word npm install react hyphen router and hit enter. Now I'm installing this particular React router. Okay, now if you go into your package.json, okay, so let me close this again, and you can see there is a package which is installed called as React router, and which is using a version of 6.25.1. so this is the version which it is using. Now our application have a capability to use our routing mechanism, so we can use our routing mechanism now. So let me go into app.js, how to achieve that login mechanism. So first thing is, let me show you a simple understanding of this routing. For for create any routing, we should use something called as browser router. Okay, and this browser router is provided by our React router dom. So let me import that. Import from React router, and you will be importing that particular browser router. So my browser router is ready with me. Okay, so this way we will be using our browser router. So there are different routers and many more. Whenever you want to learn something about React routers separately, because it is also a separate library, we have to use this browser router. So how to use this, and exactly if you want to know, that will be a very big thing, but in general this is another library. So in that library, what are the things which we need, that I'm concentrating now. So this browser router will help us to provide a wrapper for this HTML content. Whatever the React content we have, it provides a feasibility to achieve our routing. And how can I achieve that? So if you go and hit this, okay, now we can go with something called as routes. There is something called as routes, and also we have something like a route. So there are two things. Let's understand first thing called as route. So let me go with route alone, and it has two things. One is the path where you want to go. For example, I want to go into login, so I'll give the path name as login. Clear? And we have something called as element. When which element in the sense, the same component, you can consider like a component, you can consider like a HTML element, however you want. Now this element is something like some of your React element. So for now I'll just target this login. So I'll use something called as login, and I just want to self close this. If you want to give double closing also, that's fine. That means you can use open and closing tags also. Let me import this. So not sure why it is not importing. Okay, let me import it manually. Import login from dot slash. I'm in the current folder. I want to go into pages, and inside this I have something called as, why we are seeing two things, pre-login. Okay, so we have something called as pre-login, and inside this pre-login I want to go with login. Save this, and inside that login we have login file. So let me go inside this login slash login, save this. Okay, let me go here, and we got some browser router problem because it is not exporting this properly. So let's check what is the problem over there. So we have imported from React router. What is the package we have? We have both packages, React router and React router DOM. So we have not installed one more thing called as React router DOM. So whenever you want to apply some changes, we need to install one more thing called as npm install react hyphen router hyphen DOM. Let me hit enter. So now these will be able to interact with our DOM elements. So now go here, just instead of using your React router, we'll be using React router DOM and save this. Now go back, and you can see route is only ever be used as a child of routes. That means it is expecting we should have some routes, and inside that routes only we have to configure this. So what I'll do is I'll wrap this inside the routes thing. Okay, and it is also coming from React router DOM. So let me cut this and put it over here. So all your routing configuration should go inside this routes. Okay, I have only one route as of now. Let's check that. Let me save this, go here and give something like slash login. So you can see the login page. This, where it is coming from, it is coming from this login component. You can see here. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes.
So you are clear, right? Okay. Now let me go with one more route because we need one more thing called as service request. So before going to that, what we are trying to achieve, the thing is, for example, if you want to go to a service center, you will be raising a request like, I have this problem, I need some appointment, so I'll be coming on this, and you will be giving some information to him so that he will be contacting you. So this is a normal process for service ticket raising system. Okay, whenever you want to raise some ticket, that will be the process in general. Okay, so what we'll do is I'll use the same thing for us, and I'll create an application where it will, we can raise the request. For raising the request, there is no need of authentication, but the person who is using this application, for example, in automobiles, you have someone who is working at that place where he can log in and he can check what are the requests he got, and he can contact them by phone or an email. So that is the achievement which we can do. This login page is mainly for the person who is working at automobiles. Let me consider in that way, and let me create one more route which is a public route where the people can go and create their request. So let me give it as service request, and this is also having an element called as, we have created already the service request. So let me check that service, what is that name? Let me go into pre-login, and you have something called as service request. Copy this name and put it over here and just import this. So I have imported this service request. So whenever you give this particular path, this particular element will execute. So let me copy this and now go here, just give that. Now service request URL is working and login is working, but people will not always go like this. They will not go with the URL. People need some interaction where you can click a button, go here, click a button, go there. So something like this. So now what I want to do is I want to create a header content for these two routes, that is for login and for service route. So what we'll do is we will utilize our Bootstrap. So how to utilize this Bootstrap? We need to use this Bootstrap, but we need something to install. So how we can do that? So let me go here, and again, if you want to use the Bootstrap, I can install it, npm install and something like Bootstrap. Let me hit enter. So if you are not much familiar with Bootstrap, it is a UI library. It is also a type of library, so where you can get UI elements. For example, in this case, I want to create a header. For that header, we can use something called as nav. So there is a nav bar which provides all the CSS classes for you, and it will be very easy to use this CSS and HTML content. Just you have to copy it and paste it and you can utilize it. So however you want to manage, you can manage that. Okay, so if you want to really learn Bootstrap separately, this is the documentation. You can go, you can see all the different classes which are provided by Bootstrap, and that gives you an understanding. But in real time, that is not the case. We will not remember all these classes. There are plenty of classes in Bootstrap. So whenever we want to use that, we will be searching and we will be using it. But you need to know some bit normal one like buttons you have to know, and anchor tags you have to know. These cases is recommended to know, but if you want to use accordions, alerts, all this, we can't remember all the classes at any point of time. But this Bootstrap is very famous for responsiveness. So whenever you go into the mobile mode, it immediately adapts to that mobile mode. It can be done with plain CSS also, but it will take some time to implement, and it will have more lot of code. All the codes whatever required for the responsiveness, that is given by Bootstrap by default. So what I'll do is I'll create this navbar. So navbar, you can create something like this or something like this. You can go with any of the pattern you want. So I'll go with the first pattern. It's easy and simple. So let me click this navbar, and what I'll do is I'll use this navbar for our header part. First thing, let me go here. To show that navbar, I have to use pre-header. So I have created that file already. So let me create a div and put here. That's it. So I have created my own HTML navbar. So let me format this first. Now, the thing is, if you see, there are a lot of things here which we can manage. And first thing is try to solve these problems. So here the problem is in HTML, if you are using a normal orphan tags or self-closing tags, no need to close it. It automatically works in HTML, but it will not work in React. Remember, so you have to close it manually. So first thing, and I said input is also a self-closing tag. So you have to close it manually. If you are not closing, then React will show the error. That is the first thing. And let me check, do you have any errors? No, perfect. And save this. Now let me use this component to render. So let me copy this, go into app.js. Normally we want inside the app.js, and whenever these routes are shown. So before this, I want to show that particular component. So what I'll do is I'll use this component over here. Let me import this. Okay, so now it imported in the pre-header. But what is the problem here? The problem is every function in React, you have to return only one element. If you see, there are two elements. One element is this one, and one element is this one. So we are having two siblings. We should not do that in React. For that sake, you can use something called as fragments. So you can use something like fragments, or just you can keep empty tags. But I generally don't go with empty tags. I always go with a fragment tag. People will understand why we kept this fragment. Fragment is something like an empty tag. So it will not have any functionality, but the thing is it will wrap your sibling components into a single component, and this particular fragment will not be visible on your DOM as well. Remember that. So I'll show you that as well. Let me go here, and if you see here, you got some clumsy data. Okay, why it is happening? Because we have installed the Bootstrap, but we are not trying to use the CSS. So how to use that CSS? It is very simple. Here already we have imported app.css. In the same way, if you want to use your Bootstrap, that Bootstrap CSS should be imported at the top level, and our top level is this app.js. So I can use something like bootstrap slash, I can use something like dist, and inside this I can use CSS, and inside the CSS I want to use bootstrap.min.css. This is one file which you have to import, and you have to import one more file for JS because internally it uses some JS JavaScript logics. So you have to import the JS file as well from bootstrap dot bundle dot min. Bundle, yes, the spelling is right. Okay, save this. Now go here. You can see exactly whatever you saw over here as an example, you are able to see here. Sorry, here. Okay, now whatever you don't want, you can remove it, but try to check your console once. So if you see the console, there is something like invalid DOM property class. Did you mean class name? So it is telling that in React, whenever you want to apply some CSS, let me close all this. When you want to apply some CSS, you should not use the class. We have to use something called as class name, because React has another components called as class level components. So that class level components, we cannot, I mean, it will be conflicting whenever you are using a class level component and this CSS class, it gets confused. React will not understand which is class function and which is a normal CSS class. So that's why they are recommending us not to use classes. Instead, try to rename this with class name, and let me search with a class name and replace everything with class name. Let me save this, and you can see, let me refresh. Now you can see everything is clear, and let me reset to normal one. Yeah, okay. So this is the one which we have created, but I don't want to use all that stuff. So what I'll do is I'll just use this home page, and then I'll just remove all the remaining stuff we don't want. And I don't want to use disable, and then I don't want to use the whole form. Save this. Now it is very simple form with a navbar and home page. So what I'll do is I'll go here into the navbar and I'll say that it is an ATS application. That's it. I want to give this ATS, and here I want to give something called as login, and then I'll copy the same thing and put it over here with some other things like service request, and save this. Now go here, clear this off. You saw this too, but they are not clickable. If you are saying href, we are not able to click this and move here and there. In general, for moving that purpose, we will be using anchor tag. Anchor tag is used to move here and there. So I don't want to use an anchor tag in our React application, because whenever you want to use a navigation element, there is an element which is given by React called as link. Okay, so you can use something called as link. If you see here, it is exported, it is imported from React router DOM. So let me go here. I'll use something like login, and here let me use href, or you can use something like, this is a link tag, so let me use to. There is a property called as to. For this property, you have to pass your file, your route name. So let me use /login and save this. So let me copy the same thing and let me comment this here. How I'm giving this routing is, it is very simple. If you see your app, we have something like login. So this is the path name which I'm using, and for service request, this is the path name. So let me go here and give this. So let me save this. And what is this? The base name, the structure. Okay, so no need to give this slash, and save this. This one is service request. Save this. Go here. We have some other problem, use context. So let me check this link. So it should not come from React router, it should come from nav link. Copy this and put it over here, here, save this. Let me refresh. The structure property, use context as it is null. So can't destructure a property, future off. So let me check this property. In general, we'll be using a link and it is coming from React router itself. So we should be able to log in with this slash login slash service request. Let me check the terminal. Syntax is correct. React Webpack imported. Okay. So let me import our React from React. Save this. It is throwing an error for future off. Okay. So let me comment this for now. Let's check one more time. Save this and we have this. Okay, till here it's clear. No routes matched location. Okay, fine. Slash login. So it is coming as a login. So perfect. So there is a problem with this link itself. So let me link this from router, and this is also from router. Save this. Okay, so base name, base structure property, base name of React Webpack. So we have some problem in installation. href attribute requires a valid value. It's absolutely fine. Let me quit this and run again. And then let's see. Still the same problem persists. Any version problem? Okay, let's hold on for this. I'll just tell you that. Save this, and I'm using a href where the href is something like login, and copy the same thing, put it over here, service hyphen request, and save this. So it went to service request, it went to login. But if you observe, if I'm using this href, okay, it is getting reloaded. So that is the reason we have to use some external stuff like link or any other things like nav link. But this link is giving problem. Let me check that a bit later. So now we are able to navigate from one page to another page. If you see, this is a common part in this whole application. This is a common part. If I go into login, only login is shown, and if I go into service request, only service request is shown, but with the same header. So that means this content is managed. So that's why normally React or any single page application, we will call it as content management system. So you will be managing only the content, not anything else. So here what I'll do is, here this pre-header I don't want to show whenever I go to dashboard. For example, the user, when he logs in, he will be going into the dashboard. So this is the dashboard, and if you see the dashboard, you don't have a route. So that's why it is not showing. So let me create that route for dashboard. Route, and the path is dashboard. And let me give the element where the element is something like board. Okay, let me import this from import dashboard from dot slash pages slash post login slash and dashboard. I'm not sure why I'm seeing two folders. So this is my dashboard route, and let me remove this complete route from here, and let me use save. Go here and try to give the dashboard. You can see the dashboard, but actually speaking, I should not see this particular header in dashboard. So I want to restrict that cases. So once the user logs in, then I don't want to show this particular header. If we want, we can show some other header part. So that's why what I'll do is, I will wrap these two things in one route and this thing in another route. For example, I have something called as one more route, and I'm putting something like this. So this is my one more route. Now the layout will come into picture. So where this route should be shown or showcased. So how this route should be showcased. So that way, what we'll do is we'll go with a path with slash, or you can go directly with a normal pre, that means pre login, or whatever the screens you want to show before login. I'm just giving a path called as pre, and I'll use something, an element, and this element will be something like pre login. So already we have created a pre-login layout. So where is that layout? So we have inside the layouts. So let me import pre-login layout. You can give any name, dot slash, and we are going with a layouts, and inside this layouts I can go with pre-login and save this. Now I can use this pre-login layout. Save this and now go here. So let me go into our login. So but if you want to use this login, you have to go first into pre. So if you are able to go into pre, then only you can go into login. But that will not render directly, because whatever the layout you want, you don't want to showcase in the app, but you want to showcase in this particular layout. So whenever you are trying to create a layout, you have to create something called as, I'll just put this h1 pre-login screens just for our understanding, and then I'll be using something called as outlet and save this. Now whatever you are seeing here, this is a common code, so you will be seeing only the common piece of code. Here whatever you are seeing the outlet, that will be your original outlet. That means whatever the route you have inside these pre-login screens, that means the login and the service request, that will be loaded here. So let me go here, and if you go into slash pre slash login, then you can see the header which is coming from app, and this pre-login screens which is coming from your layout, and you are seeing dashboard, sorry, login. But in the same case, if you go to dashboard, you will not be seeing this particular pre-login. Let me hit enter. Now you can see only you are seeing a dashboard. That means you are not seeing that particular layout. So in this layout, instead of writing this, what I want to do is I want to use that pre-header. Let me cut this pre-header and put it over here. Let me import. So now I have used this pre-header so that people will see this pre-header only in this particular layout. This layout can handle only these two routes. So let me go back, and now you can see the dashboard is not seeing that header, but if you go into pre/login, you are able to see that. Now let me go here and go into this. So instead of login, I have to give slash pre slash login. Save this, and this is something like slash pre slash service request. So let me go here, and now let me refresh, click on login. Login is working. Service request is also working, but this time the URL is pre. So are you clear with this till now?
Yes, I have one question actually.
Yeah.
So instead of handling these routes in pre-login, can't we use any conditional statements to handle the routes?
Right, that is perfect. You can use the conditional routes, but the problem is whenever you are using a conditional routes, this app component will be loaded only once.
True.
Okay, and if you have something like a big layouts, for example, if you have a post, after post login, you may be having a header, sidebar, and right side and bottom. All this cannot be handled with a in a normal way, right? If you have to write more conditions, instead of handling them with the conditions, if you are using if you are creating some other components, okay, so that will give you a more benefits. So in this, I can write pre-header, I can write some XYZ. So whatever the code you want, you can wrap, and wherever the content should be managed, there you can use outlet. This outlet tag is also coming from React Router.
Okay. So
Okay.
just like as you said earlier, fragment we can use fragment tag, right? So where it will just wrap multiple routes into a single tag.
Right.
So
That's it.
So
That's it.
here we are writing multiple.
No, we are returning only one.
Okay, I mean pre-header and in outlet we have only one.
No, consider the parent one. You
Okay,
have only one div.
okay, yeah, yeah.
Inside that, whatever you have, that doesn't matter.
Okay,
But
makes sense. Makes
whatever
sense.
the root element you have, it should return only one.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, clear?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
So this is about your pre-header. So let me try one more time because the syntax is proper, but why it is not picking up is a big question to me. So let me use the link here. Save this. And now, yeah, it took now. Okay, I got the point. Here the point is this pre-header before doing that we kept out of these routes. Remember, we kept out of these routes. That's why that link is not working. But after keeping this inside the pre-layout, it started working. Why? Because this pre-layout is inside our routes. Clear? Let me show you some one more time. Let me cut this and put it over here. Save this. Sorry. Can see it is telling that you don't have a base name in the sense this paths. So once I cut this and put it inside this, it started working. And if you observe, this div is an unwanted div. We don't want this div. In this case also, you can replace that with the fragment. Save this and save this. Now go here, everything is working fine. Let me go into service request. Now it got failed because let me go into the header. We are using /pre. We have to append it with pre /pre, and this anchor tag I can remove. Let me remove this anchor tag. Save this. Now one more thing is I need some space for this, so I'm using and nbsp, or you can use something like padding. Let me go here. Now hit this. Nothing is working because we are using pre. So if I give 3000, okay, if I give 3000, I want to pick this immediately, even if I give pre. So localhost /pre, it should pick this one. So whenever you want to pick this one immediately, then you can use index. So let me go here and hit this. Now you can, it is not traveling more. Why? Because the path and the index should not be together. So what I can do is I will create two routes. One is with the path and one more is without path. So whenever you give with path, then if you give pre/login, it will go here. If you don't give with path, then whatever the parent route, here pre is the parent route, then immediately this index value will be picked up. Let me show you that. So I gave pre, sorry, pre, okay, even though it is showing login because it is indexed there, and we have something like login. So we have login as well. And if you want to write something like one more folder where not found folder, let me create a not found folder with a new file called as not found.jsx and rfce tab. So you can see this not found folder here. So how to manage this not found is, it is very simple. Whenever you have a route with path as star, think single star element. Let me go with, let me check both. So this is an element called as not found. So I have imported this not found. Let me save this and don't give some random string. Then you are not able to see. I think it is single star. Save this. Element type is invalid. Why? RFC. I gave the route.
Not saved.
Sorry?
Not found component is not yet saved.
Okay. Save this. Super. You can see there is a not found. So whenever you give a random number or random URL, this not found is triggered. So if you want to customize this, you can customize however you want. I'm leaving for now. So let me go here and let me go into the login page. So we are in login page and we have a service request. So inside this service request, I'll be very quick. by creating a service request form. So how to create that form? So let me go into form and select something like form elements or the form controls. We have email and the password. So let me put this complete thing in our login. So let me go into login and remove this, paste this. So I can remove this div and I can remove this div. We have a form, so let me format, and now we have an input field. Let me give a slash and slash and slash. Save this. Now we have an email address and a password. So I don't want this help tag, so let me remove this. Save this. Now go here again. You have to replace your content over here, and let me design a bit by using a card. So I'm using this card component. Let me copy this and put it over here, or let me, yeah. So I'm using a empty tag, put it over here, and I'll just use this complete form inside my card. So don't bother about this. This is complete a UI part. Save this. Now go here, and so you can see this style prop expects a mapping. Actually speaking, whenever you want to use a style in React, you have to use an object format, something like this. Okay, so you have to use an object format. And one more thing, what we learned in our classes, so class versus class name. So class should be replaced with class name. So let me replace this and save this. So you can see we have created a card. I want to make it center. So if you want to make it a center, so I want to make whole card as center. So that's why I'll create one more div, because I want to write some set of styles over here. And I'll give class name where I'll be using a dflex, display flex, justify hyphen content hyphen center, and save this. Now it went into the center, and I want to give some padding for whole this card. And you have a form, and inside this form I want to give padding of 3. So let me save this, and you can see some padding you got. So don't bother about the UI content. Okay, so we have email address and a password. So if you want to make it center also, we can do that. So just inspect this, and this is our div which is having the complete data, and I can give height as 100 vh. So it is making whole content. So we have to create one more div for this. So let me go here and create a div. Sorry. Format this, and let me give a class name. But this time I'll not get the class name directly. Instead, I'll create one more file just for our understanding. We can use something called as login.module.css. So whenever you want to restrict a particular file, and if you want to use that style, you have to import it in a different manner. I'll show you that. So for example, I'm giving h100-vh. This is a custom CSS class. I can use 100 vh on this. So I want to use this. If you want to use this, this is a module class. So whenever you want to have a module CSS, you have to import with a named CSS from /login_module.css, and I want to use this over here. So this is an object format style dot, what is the name of it? It is hyphens. It is followed by hyphens. I can use like this and give the class name. Let me copy this and put it over here. Save this. Now go here. If you refresh and see, the height is completely taken. That means whatever we are seeing. Now on this, what we can do is we can make align items. This is the deflex. Okay. Align. This is my card. So it is aligned to the center of this, and to pull this down I can just use something like margin of 20%. So I can pull this down. So let me go here and let me go into my modules, and that's it. So we are done with the centering of email. Now what I'll do is I will go into my service request. I'll create one more form. We'll go with the validation bit later. So now let me go here and let me copy the same stuff, or let me go into service request and paste this format. And I don't want to use any styles now. I'll just use something like class name. I want to give a padding top of 3 and save this. Now go here and you can see the same form. Now we will change this form. So what we'll do is we'll add something like a h3 tag where raise a ticket. Save this. Now you can see we have added some set of content over here, and I want to add a padding for this as well. So padding of 3 and save this. Now we have added a padding. Now we will be giving the customer details here. So how to give that customer details? So let me go here. This is my div. So this could be something like customer email, and I have an email over here and a password. So no need to have a password for us. Just what I'll do is I'll just copy this. I'll make it like text and mobile, copy, paste, and I don't want this area label, and customer mobile number, and save this. Now we have a mobile number and an email, and also I want to know some other content. So before that, for example, you have this API. This is an API. I'll explain you what are the fields we have. So let me show you that. We have a name, mobile, reason, and a location. So let me go with the location. Customer location, and this location will be something like select. So let me go into select and just copy this, paste, and format. Let me remove this area label, and let me remove this selected, and let me make it as empty. And here we have something like Hyderabad, Secunderabad, something like, give some name, Vizag. Okay, save this. Now this is my form, and I have something like a div over here to manage our content, and I'll close this div. So format, and this is not for mobile, this is for location, and let me go with customer location. So he'll be giving his location, and then he has to, let me remove this, and I want to show some other fields as well, like status. Let it be email done, name of the customer. So it is very important, we missed it. So let me put over here, and let me go to name, and name, let me remove this and go with customer name. Save this. Now go here, and we have a name, mobile, and a reason. So we want a reason. So if you want to give some reason, it could be bigger text. So we will go with text areas. So we have a text area. Just copy this text area, and I don't want to have a floating stuff, or just pull this up and put it over here and format this. So this is something like reason, and save this. So leave a comment and floating text, let it be. So let me go here, and you can see the reason over here. I want to use this submit button, but on the right side. side. So for that sake, what I'll do, I'll create a div and let me add this class name mb3 for this, so that it will add a margin bottom. So let me cut this button, put it over here, class name d-flex justify content end. So these all are the classes which are provided by Bootstrap. So let me save this. Now you can see you have a submit button, but instead of submit button, what we'll do is we'll raise ticket. Save this. Now we are good with this. Let me go into the console. We have some problems. Let's see what's the problem. So they are telling that we should not use class. Instead, we have to use a class name. So we have 3 occurrences. So let me replace this. Done. And also let me go here and refresh. So we have something like invalid for. So in React, whenever you have a for attribute, you have to use HTML for. So let me copy this and go here, search for. You have to replace it with HTML for. Copy this and put it over here, replace. So done. Save this. Now go back, refresh. Now we are clear with our form. So if you want to increase the size of this form, just increase it to 22 rem. Save this. And now this is a form. So you can see the locations, mobile number, email address, and customer name. So hopefully we have all the fields. So till here, are you clear? We are with login and a service request. Is that clear?
Yes,
Are you
sir.
there?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
sir.
Yes.
Okay. Hope you are not feeling bored, right? This is a UI stuff. Okay. Now the crazy part will come in picture. Okay. So till here, if you are clear, then I can go with our main thing, which is related to React again. Okay. Till now, you have any questions? Let me know. Cool. So now what we'll do is we will integrate our API. So how we want to integrate our API? First thing is, now a user came here into the application and he's a customer now. So I want to raise my request. So to raise this request, we need some backend. So for that sake, what I did is, this is a mock API. So this is a mock API.io where you can just go and log in with your Gmail account and you can create a project. Okay, I have created a project with automobile service request, and this is my endpoint. Okay, so I have used the application with TextShare SKK, so that's why you are able to see this particular route. And these are my resources. Let me refresh this. So we have 0 request or 0 responses, and you have 0 users. Okay, if you want to generate a mock data, just by clicking on a particular number, it automatically creates all the data. Okay, so you can add some set of fields, you can delete some set of fields. For example, in this case, I have configured this resource with all this data. So it is not for you guys, don't worry about it. This will be completely backend guys, who will provide you complete data. Okay, which indicates like name, mobile, reason, location, status, email, everything will be provided for you from backend. Now, if you want to use this particular resource, how can I use it? For example, I'll show you some example. Let me click on this users. So these users, consider these users are the users which are created by automobile company. So these users are the services who are providing. For example, automobile company employees. So let me go with the data. So you have this many users with an email and a password. So we don't have any registration because this data is created from the company. So we will be validating whether the username and the password, whatever we are entering here, whether they are present over here or not. That is the logic we will perform in this case for users. So I have 40 users. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this and let's see how it works. So instead of this endpoint, my endpoint is users. You can see the name over here, right? So you can use something like users. So you can see all the data over here, the same data, right? So you have an email, password, and everything. So we have users, but service requests will be created from our application. So here the person comes here, give the customer name, email address, mobile number, location, and a reason, and then he will raise the ticket. But the person can raise the ticket directly without entering this, so we should not allow. We need some basic validation. So I'll do basic validation by using a library called as use form. So I'll show you that library as well. Use form react. Okay, so this is very famous and it is used only for the functional components. Don't use this for class components. So always focus that this is only used for the functional component. So how to install this and how to utilize this? So let me go into our Visual Studio Code back, and now we are installing one more library. So if you are using a framework, you will not have all these headaches. With all these values or all these data will be provided by the application or the framework itself. So now what we'll do is we will install our form. So how to install it is npm install and react hook form and hit enter. So it will create you a react hook form. So we have created our hook form. Now let me go into our service request component, and here is our component. Let me close this. Now inside this I want to create my form. So how you will be creating that particular form? It is very simple for us. Why? Because this form itself will provide all the validations. You no need to do some explicit validations. Okay, so how can we do that? Now use form is a function which is coming from react hook form. Try to understand this, and we will be passing some set of values to it, and that are called as default values. And what are my default values? Let me consider name, the values which we want to pass for the backend that we are configuring over here, and we have something called as mobile, and when we have something called as email. You can give however the format you want and whatever the names you want, but I prefer to use the same labels whatever we are trying to use inside this particular users, service request. We have a name, mobile, reason. So let me go with a reason, and I have something like location, and I have something like status. So whenever the user creates over here, the status will be pending status. That will be closed by employee of a company. So employee of that particular company will close this. So this is a use form which we have created with all these fields. So now this use form, it will provide us some data. And what is the data is, let me create some variables. Const, the data is something like register. So you can register some set of content based on the fields, whatever you have. So this is a register page, and you have something like form state, okay, which will provide you some other details like is valid or not, whether the form is valid or not, and errors, if you have errors or not. Okay, so these are very important. We have many other properties, but these are good enough for creating a simple form and validating a simple form. Now we have a register method. This register method help us to create our registration pattern. That means we have to register each and every element, what they are doing, how they are doing, and what purpose we have created that register. So you have a register, just go into the input field, and this is a text type. So let me save this, and I want to register this particular input name. So how you will register is, you will be using a spread operator, register, and inside this register you have to pass a property name, and the property name is name. Already we have in the use form name, and then this can have any validations. For example, in my case, I want to go with required validation. If the required, that the person doesn't enter any value, what we have to show is, we have to show name is required, something like this. Let me go here and go to the browser. Let me go here. You can see once I submit this, it is going directly here. So we have to use on submit. So we'll talk more about it. So for now I have registered this. So like this we have to register for every method. So you have to register for every element. So this is something like an email. You have registered with an email. Inside email is required. Copy the same, put it over here. I want to go with mobile, and mobile is required. And then I want to go with the same, but this time I have to go on to the select. And what is this? Location. And here location is required. Let me go with capital L and capital M. And then I want to go with text area, where you will be using again the same register. Each and every field should be registered. So this is something like a reason for us, and here it is reason is required. Save this. Now we have created all our form content. Now whenever you are using a type as submit, and if you want to submit that form, it will not work directly. Instead it will be working like normal way, normal react, not the react html content. If you click this, it is picking up all the values and going directly. But if you want to avoid it, what we can do is we can write something called as on submit on a particular form. So this is whole form. And do we have any form tag? As of now we don't have any form tag. No, we have a form tag over here. So we can write something like on submit, and this on submit should call our handle submit, which is provided by use form handle submit. So inside this handle submit, it will receive one more prop, and that property is nothing but your functionality, like on submit, or you can write anything like submit handler, and this should be your own function, const submit handler, which will receive the data whatever entered by the user in that particular form. Let me write console.log of data. And now when the user don't enter this, we have to show this required field, right? But where we have to show? We need to show somewhere in the UI, right? So let's create a placeholder for us. So let me go with a paragraph, and this paragraph is something like errors dot. So you can see we got this errors from use form. Use form will provide that errors, and if you hit this dot, it is showing all the details. I want to go with a name, and that name has a message. So I want to show that message. The same thing will apply for everything. So the message will be this one, whatever you give here. So if you want to give some other message, you can go with some other message as well. But you have to change the property name here. It is email, and this is for mobile, mobile, and this is for location, and this is for, let me go here, reason. Save this. Now go here and let me refresh once and remove this all query params and hit this. Now you can see name is required, email is required, mobile is required, location is required, reason is required. So let me enter this name, Sai Kumar. Now you can see you don't see any error message, but you can see remaining error messages. Let me hit this. You can see all the remaining error messages. Now what we want to do? First thing is we want to disable this button when this form is invalid. So already we have a property called as is valid. So is valid tell you whether you want to disable it or not. So I can use something like disabled. When it has to disable is when it is not valid. So if it is valid, if I keep a not condition, it becomes not condition for that valid part. So until this is valid, it will be in disabled state. That is point one. And let me add something like we have a paragraph. So what I'll do is I'll just add some styles for this. So what I'll do, I'll use inline styles for now. Styles with color as red, just for indicating this is a problem and this is an error message. So let me paste and paste, save this. Now go here, you can see everything in red color. But what's happening here is until we submit, we won't see the error message. You saw? Now this is disabled and we are not able to see the error messages. How we can do that? That is nothing but there is a mode called as on change. So whenever you type something, it immediately detects that. So for example, I'm trying to use Sai and removed. You can see name is required. And if you give here like SAI and remove this, again you can see email is required. That means whenever you are not giving this mode, it will be on submit mode. Now I changed it to on change. Whenever you change something, you can see there. Now what I'll do is I have created this and we are disabling until you get the valid data. If you want to do more validations, you can do more validations as well. For example, I can go with a min length or max length. Min length, if the value of that min length is 3, minimum we need 3, otherwise I want to show a message called as minimum 3 characters are required. You can go like this. In how many ways you want to validate, you can validate. Let me refresh this. Now I gave Sai SA, then it is showing minimum 3 characters is required. If I remove completely, name is required. If I give 3 characters, it is not showing any error message. Like that, you can validate anything like pattern, max length, min value, everything you can validate. And this is how you can validate your whole form. Is that clear? The validation?
Yes, I.
Clear?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Now, what we'll do is, whenever we submit, are we getting the complete data or not? Let's see that. So let me go here, inspect this, and let me fill all the content. And once I fill all the content, this should enable. So let me give some data and give some reason, testing. Okay, and click on this. You can see whole data is present here, right? So location, it is showing 1, but it should be Hyderabad. So what I'll do is, we have a value called as 1. I'll replace that with my value called as Hyderabad, and then Secunderabad text and Vizag text. Save this. Okay, so you are able to see whole content, but this content should not be here itself. It has to go into our mock API here. Complete data should go here. So how we can do that? In this case, we need, first thing is we need Axios to call that API. If you want to go with state management, you can go with state management with Axios. So in this video or in this session, I'll just go with complete Redux state management along with Axios. Clear? Okay. I think we went a long time. Are you getting bored? Guys?
No, sir.
Okay, so we'll not take more time now. Okay, we'll complete as soon as possible. Let's target for 30 minutes. Please let me know once 30 minutes is done. Okay. Now, what we'll do is we'll go into the service request and we got the data. Now we have to configure our state management. So if you want to manage your state management, you need some other installations. So first thing is you have to install Axios for API calls. npm install Axios. So this is for HTTP calls because this is the backend API and we have to call the data and we have to dump our data inside this service request. Let me go here. And now what I'll do is I have installed Axios and we need to use something like React routers, not the routers. We have to use Thunk, Redux Thunk and Redux. So how to use that? Let me install npm install Redux, React-Redux and I want to use Redux Thunk. Okay, there are three different libraries which we are trying to use. One is Redux, which is used only for the state management, and I want to use React Redux because that Redux should support our React. So that's why I'm using this React Redux. And Redux Thunk, it is used for API calls. Let me hit enter, or asynchronous data. So I have installed all these packages, and you can see package.json. Okay, now we have something like Redux Thunk, and React Redux. So these three has been installed in our application. Now what I'll do is, for this state management, you need to know three parts. One is dispatch, one is action, and one is reducer. Reducer is something like a function. So I'll show you how to create that directly. Now what I'll do is, I'll create one more folder called as store folder. And inside this store folder, I'll create something like a store file, store.js. Now I'll create my store. So in general, whenever you are using the Redux, you will have only one store, and that store will manage all the content by using its reducers. Okay, so first we'll create a store, export const store, and the store value is something like create store. So by using this create store from Redux, we will pass our reducers. So first thing is that one, and we need to use some reducers. So how to use that reducers? So let me create some reducers is equal to combine reducers, because we will be using multiple reducers. So to target that multiple reducers, I'm using a combine reducer. First reducer is service create reducer. You can give any name for this, but you have to map with one of the reducer which you want to create. Let me hold on till here on the store. So we need to create a reducer. We want a reducer. So let me go and create a new file called as, or let me create, we have only few things, so I don't want to create a folder. I'll go with service reducer.js. Okay, this is my service reducer. What is this reducer? It is nothing but you are creating a function which will receive two things. So I'm creating a function const, and this is export const, and the reducer is service reducer. It is also a function, but this function will receive a state and action. So I'm just giving the names. You, whatever the name you want, you can give it. And this state is nothing but whatever the data we want. For example, const initial state is equal to, we have some initial state. So in general, whenever you request something, it will take some time to get the data from the API based on your internet. So now what I'm doing is, for handling that loading part, I'm using a loading indicator. So loading indicator, let me give it as false. This is a default states. Okay, and now I have a loading indicator, and I have the original data. First will not have any data, so my initial data is null, and first you will not have any errors, so error is also null. So this is the initial data we want, and this initial data I'll assign to my state. Now we have created a state, we have created our reducer. Now what this reducer should do is, it should handle all my cases. Action.type. So what are the actions we can expect? In general, we can expect a loading action. That means I want to create the request. So create request, you can give any name again here, case, and this should be doing some operations where it has to return some data. Let me use something like ... state, and whenever I started my request to create, then my loading will be true because it is in progress. By that time it will be, data will be null and error will be null. So this is my request state. That means it just started to save my data into database. Once the saving is done, we will get a response. That means create success. So once we get the response from the backend, so we will again use this state management, the previous state, and I'll stop my loading. So loading will be false. And as I'm treating this action as a success action, so I'll be getting a proper data. But this time, where the data should come from, the data should come from action dot payload. So you will understand soon why I'm writing payload and everything. So you can write any of that stuff, but this has to match when you are calling an API. So I'm creating an error as null because it is already success. If it is success, you will not have an error. Let me copy the same thing and let me use failure case. And here I'll not have data because it is failed. And I have something called as error. So error could be something like action.payload. Whatever the error you want to pass from external part, you'll be using this. So now we are ready with our reducer and we should have a default case. My default case is return my as it is the state, whatever we have. That means any of this case doesn't matches, then it will take the default case. So this reducer, we have to sync up with our combine reducer and import it. Now reducer is ready. These reducers I can create inside this, and my store is also ready. So this store I have to map it with my UI. So let me copy this store and let me go into my index.js and I'll use something like provider. It is coming from React Redux and it will accept a store variable, and that store variable is equal to our store variable. So the store variable you can give whatever we want, but I am giving both as same. So that's why this store variable points to this, and this one is a property of this provider. That means React Redux. So I have saved this and let me format this and save. Now we have created our store that will not be visible for us anymore. That is just a logical part. Now what I'll do is I want to submit this request to my API. So what I'll do is I'll just go here inside the store itself. I'll create one more file called as api.js. So what this api.js will do is it will hit my API and it will get the response. For that sake, let me create a base URL, because that will be a common URL in general. So what is a common URL here? Till this point, it is a common URL. Now our URL is ready. Const. We have something like create request. I have something like a create request, and let me receive some form data. Whatever the data we are getting from the form, I'll receive that, and I'll return one more function, or just I'll use my Axios. So how can I use Axios is, this is an asynchronous data and I'll be using my Axios. So const data is equal to await. So in general, whenever you are passing a data, so you have to wait until you get the data. So that's why I'm using async and await. So if you want to know more about async and await, you can see my YouTube channel. Okay, so we have async and await. This await will wait. That means it will pause that terminal or execution here until whatever we are writing after await. I'm awaiting this for my Axios.post call because I want to push my code. If you see this, we have different type of operations over here. One is get, one is put, one is post, and one is delete. So I can do all these operations. In this case, I'm creating it. So that's why I will be using a post. And my post URL is my base URL followed by, already you have a slash over here. Let me remove the slash here and let me put the slash over here, and followed by the service request. Copy this and put it over here. Save this. Now we are awaiting until you get the data. So once you get the data, we will return that data dot, or let me use something like response for this. I can use response dot data. So this response dot data will be the data which is written by our Axios content. And this is a post. Let me pass this data to my post body. Now let me export this as well. Save this. Now go here. What we'll do is we'll create a sample data now. Let me go into the network, and when the user submits this, it has to call this create request. So what I'll do, I'll just go inside this service request, and then I'll call this create request. As this is an asynchronous data, I have to await, and I want to pass my data to this. And I want to, if you want to use async await, you have to make that function as async. So this is an async function where I am awaiting for this. And once the completion is done, I want to get some data here. Now let me use not the data, I'll use response data, because already we have a data property here, so I don't want to conflict them. So I'm using a response data, and I want to tell that success just in the console. Let me save this. Now go here, clear this off. Let me give some data, sample test, and hit this. You can see there is a service request went over here, and the payload is completely whatever the details I gave, and you got a preview. And if you go into the console, you got something like success. And let me go into the mock API, refresh. You can see here one request has been added. Let's see the data. So the data is whatever I have entered. So that means you are able to see the data over here, but there is no acknowledgement for this guy, first thing, and also we are not showing any success messages. So that we will target now. What I'll do is just I'll go here. So first thing is we need a loading indicator that is not shown over here. So that can be handled by our dispatcher. So how to use that dispatch? Instead of using await, async and all this, we can make use of dispatch. So this is one approach without using Redux. So I'm not using any Redux, and I'm able to send the data. I'm able to get the data. But now we will be using with Redux, because in general, in most of the application, we will not use this way. We will use only Redux approach, because Redux will give more flexibility for us to achieve more stuff. So what we'll do is, instead of doing this, we want to dispatch this action. So how to dispatch this? For doing that, you have a use dispatch, which is given by React again. You can see React Redux. And now this one, I'll use something called as a name called as dispatch. So now I want to dispatch this particular method with that data. So this is my dispatch logic. But whenever you want to dispatch, your function should not be a direct function. Instead, you have to return another function. So for example, this is my function. I want to return one more function, something like this, or can use return. So a function which is returning another function, so that whatever you are dispatching, that dispatch will be available for you here. And then we can use all the dispatch actions. For example, once this request starts, I can dispatch my type. If you remember, inside our reducer, we have created a type. Inside this action, we have created a type, and the type is create request. Let me copy this and put it over here. So here I am dispatching a create request, and immediately, already we linked our store. So immediately it will check this action. It will go to the reducer. It will execute this particular logic. Whenever it executes this logic, our loading indicator will be true. And once it is done with this request, we'll get the data back. So I'll use dispatch, and before doing that, I'll use something like if my response dot status is equivalent to 201. As we are using a post request, we will get the response status as 201, and then we will be dispatching this particular action where my type is a success action. If you see, we have success action. Once the data is success, I want to success this one, and I want to pass the payload. And the payload, already we are seeing this payload you will be getting from action.payload, and that is the action we are passing inside this as an object. So this payload will be equivalent to our response.data semicolon. And if something goes wrong, then it is a failure case. Copy this, put it over here, and this is a failure case. Copy this and put it over here. This one you can make something like something went wrong and save this. Now you can remove this response. And could be any cases there could be a failure over here. So for that sake, I'm using a try catch. So let me cut this, put it over here, and let me use something like catch, and you'll be getting an error. And there also I can manage with this. So create failure. Now what we are doing, we are just dispatching all the actions respectively, and based on that dispatches we will be coming over here into the reducer. I'll show you that as well. Let me go into the console.log of this create request and copy the same thing. It is create success, and then copy this create failure. Save this. Now let me hit that API. So let me go here. You can see we are trying to await, but await need an async. Let's see that async is not provided over here. Let me provide async over here and save this. Now if we are dispatching a particular method, if you want to dispatch a particular method, that will not work out directly. How we have to do is, we have to go into our store.js and we have to apply some middleware to access that functions. So in general, dispatch will be possible only for objects, something like this. We are sending an object, but in our service request, we are dispatching a function. Whenever you want to dispatch a function, you have to use and apply middleware with Thunk. So the Thunk is coming from Redux Thunk. If you apply this middleware, then your application will have an accessibility for calling a particular method by using a dispatch logic, and the method should be defined in this way. Now let me go here. So on submitting, just we are dispatching this, and go here, clear this off, and then you can see the consoles, how it is going into the reducer. So let me give Sai Kumar, and I'll make this network bit slow. By clicking on slow 3G here, it will become slow. Your main network will not become slow. This is only for this particular URL. And now I have Hyderabad and testing, and let me make it as 1, and let me make it as sudo, and let me hit this request. If you see, there is a pending. When it is in pending, you saw create request and create success, because it's a success request. So it is automatically going into that particular request. So that is how you can create your particular data. And if you go here, refresh, you got 2 requests. That means we are able to do that. The last thing what we need to understand is, while creating this, if you want to get the data from this reducer, you will be creating a selectors. Okay, so I can use something like export const, I'll just get is loading. Okay, now here what it will do is, it will receive a state, or simply instead of doing here, you can go into request, and here itself there is something called as use selector. Again, this is also coming from Redux, React Redux, and what it does is, it will give you the information about this. Like, it will receive whole state, that means store value, state dot, we have a reducer which already we have configured here, service create reducer. This is my reducer, and this is having a data that is nothing but loading. So it will give you this information, and that information you can capture here is loading, and copy this. So once the loading is done, or once it is in loading state, you can disable this as well, or you can show some content. So let me use something like h1. I'm using, if it is loading, I want to show something like submitting data, and then dot dot dot, else nothing. Save this. Now go here. First time it is not showing anything, so let me give some content again and hit. You can see submitting data, and once the submitting is done, it automatically went. Why? Because this will be in sync with our store. So when the store gets updated, it will also get updated. And once you get a success response, how you will know that we got a success response is success, or id is equal to user selector. I can use the same use selector of, I can get a state, and inside the state I can get state dot service create dot data, and the data contains an id. So if you get this id, then you are done with the content. So what I'll do is I'll use something like use effect, which is given by React, and this use effect will, I'll just use the track of it. Which one I want to track? I want to track id, and inside this id, if id presents, then I want to reset my form. So how to reset the form? There is something called as reset. So if we call this, whole form will be resetted. And whenever I get the id, I want to show here something like h1 or h4 user submitted his request, or simple to say, here I can show some idea as well. Let me save this. Now go here, refresh, and let me see. Okay, I kept the loading as slow, so let me go into no throttling. Yeah, perfect. Now I'll go with slow 3G. I'll give something like testing, and testing @gmail.com 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0, and then location Vizag, testing, and hit raise request. You can see this is in pending. Now you got user submitted his request, and you got 4, because this is the fourth one which we have submitted, and we got the response as id as 4. So once the user submitted, he can go to login page like this, and once the user logs in, he can use the other APIs, whatever the user APIs we have. So it's extending more. So I'll stop here, and the same pattern you can follow for login as well. Is that clear, guys?
Yeah.
So hope you guys are clear with that.
Yeah,
Yes,
if anyone have any
Any
doubt, you
class?
can ask.
Yeah, if you have any questions, any doubts, let me know. And by that time, let me ping you one form. Just copy this form, open that link, and whenever you are free, whenever you feel, you can fill it and submit it. Once you submit that form, you will be getting a participation certificate from KaliIO.
Yeah, you can scan up the
sure.
form, also the code, the same form is on the screen.
Yeah, if you want, you can scan it and you
Yeah,
can
you
give
can fill up.
feedback on that, and you can go with your question and answers as well.
Yeah, if anyone have any questions or any regarding this topic, you can ask.
So if you want to continue this session also, we'll make one more session maybe next week, which continues the same session.
Yeah, and the code of this session will be shared also over the group, over the
Yeah,
KaliIO
GitHub.
community group, and the feedback form also be shared. Yeah,
Any
so
question,
if
guys?
anyone have any doubt, I'm sharing the actually on over the group.
Yeah, I think we are good.
Wait a minute.
So
Yeah,
thanks for your
we can
contribution,
end up this
guys.
session here.
Yeah, hope everyone copied this form and he will put that in the announcement of WhatsApp community. And one more thing is, this is not something like we are benefiting from something. It is just to benefit you guys. Okay, just to give an intimation. So anything else to discuss, guys? We'll close in next 4 minutes. And if
Yeah,
you
we are
really
closing
want
the
to,
session. If anyone have any doubt,
if you really want to follow me on YouTube, okay, I have a YouTube channel, and you can follow me on YouTube as well. So this is my link,
yeah,
and even in the post, whatever Prasad shared, in that also we have YouTube link. You can use that as well.
yeah, I have shared the message over the group and also in the chat section. You can fill up the feedback form and you will get your certificate over your email regarding this session.
Yeah, guys.
Yeah,
So
so we can end up.
yeah, that.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you
guys.
guys for joining the session. Yeah, yeah, thank you, Sai,
Thanks.
also for this amazing session, interactive session.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Prasad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
yeah,
Sai.
sure.
Bye, guys.
Okay, guys, we are ending this session. Thank you.